Very excited to be with you here, Manny Perez. Thank you for showing La Soga 2 here at TIFF. Welcome. Welcome to TIFF 2021.
Well, no, thank you. I must say thank you to you, Diana. You've been a blessing. I've said it via email. I'm saying it in person. I'm saying it publicly. You've been a blessing to this film, and this film is my baby. I've worked on it for 10 years, and finally I got it on its feet and returning to TIFF, which is a big deal for me.
It's amazing. I remember when we saw La Soga in 2009. We had the world premiere at TIFF, and I remember we met there. And I am just so interested because I know you started in La Soga. I know that you and Josh worked very hand in hand to make La Soga. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey from La Soga to La Soga 2?
Well, yeah, no, it's funny. I met Josh Crook, who directed La Soga 1, 3 films prior to La Soga in 2009. I think I met him in like 1998, and we spoke about and I pitched him the story of La Soga, and he loved it. So then we finally shot it in Dominican Republic, and me and him. The great thing about working with Josh is that we know each other and we connect. We know each other's ideas and thoughts. And he's an amazing filmmaker, and I learned a lot from him actually. And funny is that I sort of kept the same style in La Soga 2, what he started with La Soga 1. So it's a journey, even though he's not part of La 2, his spirit is still in La Soga 2.
So what? Because I know you're a very well-known actor, Latinx actor. We're all very proud of you. What moved you to direct La Soga 2? What did you want to communicate? Why was this an exciting project for you?
Oh wow, good question. The way I write, I'm very, very visual, imagery, and so what I write is what you see on the screen. And actually, that's one thing about Josh, that he was amazing, that he took what was on the page and put it on the screen with part 1. With part 2, I asked Josh to direct it, and he was not available. So I was like, well, the only other person that I know that I could trust is myself. So then I said, well, I'm going to try at this. And it's my first feature. Again, I learned a lot from watching Josh do his thing. And then I worked with so many directors. For example, Sidney Lumet, who was a big influence in my life. And I was like, okay, how can I shoot this where it's simple and it's something that and it shows what I'm trying to say with the film. And so that's why I was like, well, I'm going to do it myself. And that's what you get when you see the film. It's just me trying to do the best I can, but I feel like the way it comes across, it has those layers of Sidney Lumet, which again, I'm a big fan. I learned so much. It has those layers of those 1970 films, which I'm a big fan. So I think they influenced me. He did. Martin Scorsese did. Josh Crook influenced me, even though he's a good friend of mine. So yeah.
Yeah, you do see a lot of those layers in the story, and you bring this real, Latino story to the United States, and talking about that experience in the U.S. Can you talk about where you shot it? And I'm just curious about some of the finer details.
Okay, great. No, it's funny. We shot it, and I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. I went to high school in Providence, Rhode Island. So I wrote it with the mind of this man who's escaping his past. So he wants to go to the smallest state in the Union. So somehow he ended up in Providence, Pawtucket. Pawtucket is a neighbor of Providence, Rhode Island, which is a small town, and it happens to be one of the smallest town in the United States, which is crazy. So I shot it there just because it was cheaper for me to shoot it there. I have a bunch of friends that helped me out. The mayor was a big fan, so having him on my side really worked out. So now, what's crazy is that I delayed the film due to schedule conflict with others. So on January 1st of last year, I was like, well, I'm going to shoot it January 1st and see where it goes. So for our New Year resolution, I said, well, you know what? Everybody for New Year resolution, they have their own, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to run the marathon. I decided I'm going to make my film. So we started on January 1st at 6 in the morning. And we were done January 15 at 5 in the afternoon. So we shot in like 2 weeks intensively, but with a bunch of friends of mine in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
No, it's amazing. And you know what I love? I love like this suspenseful thriller that you do. You merge love stories in there, revenge. Like, yeah, can you talk a bit about the writing process, the story you wanted to tell, what you really wanted to communicate?
Well, yeah, you see, firstly, I'm not a writer per se. I didn't go to school to write. I went to school to act. But I've read so many scripts that were just horrible scripts. So I've learned not to make mistakes. That's what it comes down to. So I wanted to write a story that is about a hitman, a sicario, what they call, and give that man a heart where you can relate to this man, a man who is trying to fit into society, trying to be accepted in society, but his past doesn't let him at all because his past is haunting him. It's catching up to him. So I just wanted to make him human more than anything else. And as an actor, I was sick and tired of playing the stereotypical character that Hollywood thinks a Latino should be. So I'm thinking, well, this is something that Hollywood will probably do, but they won't do it with the heart that I'm going to add to this character. So that to me was like one of the main purpose to make this character, this Sicario, just human, just a man that has emotions, a man who's looking for love, but his past doesn't let him get to that moment of enjoying life.
Yeah, that's one of the like that longing for a regular life that he has. Like he's such a likable character. You have so much empathy for him, and the way that he loves his wife and wants to protect her is really beautiful. So I like how you wove this kind of beautiful love story at the same time into this suspenseful thriller type story. Was that like something that was important for you to get it to include?
Yes, yeah, of course, very important to include. Again, I feel like in life, love is what keeps us going forward. And this man, his whole entire life, he's been looking for love. It's just he can't find it. It's just his luck his past and his luck doesn't allow him to find love. But what I also thought was interesting is that I wrote in this female character, which is she's the bad person in the film. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to ruin the end to it.
People will see this after they've seen the film.
Okay, great.
We can talk because I was going to get to her. She's an amazing character. So please go on.
So I basically wrote a female version of what La Soga was in part 1.
Yeah.
So I basically said, well, I'm going to make the character in part 1, which is himself, and make her a female who was doing the same thing he did in part 1, but he's doing it to himself. So I wanted to sort of also show that he's a man dealing with himself, trying to find himself. And he finds himself in this woman, which I think is so interesting. And this woman is so intrigued by him that she wants to play with his values to see what kind of a man he is. So there's all kinds of different layers to the story that I just enjoy, and I wanted to show on the big screen. That's what I sort of loved, the journey of writing this character, to make him very intriguing, complex, flawed, just a regular person, not a badass Hollywood gun drawing. This is a man who's just trying to get by, and then in the same time he's trying to save his girlfriend in the process, but he's just trying to get by. He's not a badass dude. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a machine gun like Hollywood does. So I guess I was trying to make sure that the layers, I take those Hollywood layers of what they think a Latino sicario is, and just make them human.
Yeah, and she has like a lot of layers too, because she longs for her childhood, for her dad, right? Like it's exactly. But she's also like, kind of scary, well, very as well. Like, so that's interesting that you were thinking of her as his character was in La Soga, in like the original La Soga. Why did you want to have that, just have that face off in a way?
Well, because I feel like I wanted him to sort of face himself, and
Mhm.
and she basically is him in a female version. So to me, that was great. That's why you in the film, there's a moment which people have seen it. That moment in the when he goes inside the freezer, the butcher, and you see the live the meat hanging, and he sees himself just because I wanted to sort of make sure that people get it. He's trying to, he has to deal with himself to find himself. And at the end, he does find himself. And himself is that bad, can I say the M word? That bad motherfucker that was in part one that needs to go back to DR to revenge the death of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So there you go. I said the M word, sorry.
Yeah, so that's another piece actually that's really interesting though, is that a lot of the pieces are being moved from the Dominican Republic. Like a lot of this is like that political layer. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like the Dominican Republic, even nowadays, I live in Washington Heights, New York, and the news that happens in the DR affects my neighborhood because we're all Dominicans. Affects everyone in the United States, not just Washington Heights. So I feel that I wanted to make sure that the head in charge, the bad dude, the politician, is based in the DR. So he needs to go back to the DR to face all those dudes that started this whole thing, not giving this man peace, which I thought was interesting to have because it's based on what happens with me and my people and how the news of the DR gets heard here as well as in the DR and affects us here as well in as the DR.
Yeah, there's that political layer, absolutely. That symbiotic relationship between what happens in the Dominican and what happens in the US with the Dominican, population. So it's really, I like that multi-layered approach. I also am really curious because you star in the film, right?
Gotcha.
So what was like that like? Because you had to kind of direct yourself. I mean, yeah, how is that process?
Well, I got to tell you, that was the biggest challenge of my life. But I've been with the script, like I said, for 10 years writing it. So I sort of knew exactly what I wanted to show and just feel on set. But what worked for me is that after each scene that I felt comfortable, I went and looked at it and like, let's try it again. Let's try this, let's try that. And mind you, I'm the type of actor that I hate seeing myself. I just hate seeing myself because I usually hate everything I do. So, but in this case, it just came to like, I felt it, it's there. I think it's there, let's watch it. Okay, it's there, let's move on. Because I felt it. And when I didn't feel it, I'm like, let's do it again because I got to feel it. So that helped me out a lot. But yeah, plus I also had a great script supervisor that helped me out with, someone that I actually brought from Dominican Republic who I worked in the past with. And she sort of knows my habits, so that was a good thing. And a great DP, new timer, first time cinematographer. But I got to tell you, he blew me out of the water. Which is great.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty amazing that you worked with a first time DOP. That's because I
Yeah.
mean, it must have been a challenge. What about directing the other actors and how did that work?
Oh no, we have rehearsals prior to shooting, which I and then while we were doing the actual scene, if I didn't feel something, I would just cut it. Let's try it again. Let's try this, and I give them the notes, which worked out. And plus the actors, I did in the audition process, I auditioned the hell out of them to make sure that while on set there was no mistakes being made or so that worked out for me in a big way.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. So did you have were people following the script very precisely? Were there any sort of was there an openness? Can you talk about? I'm curious about that actually.
Yeah, no, the script was very precise. There were scenes where I allowed a little improvisations, but it was very precise. For example, working with El Calvo, he's not an actor. The guy who plays El Calvo, amazing. I love that dude. That guy's voice is amazing. I worked with him for a month and a half on that scene alone, because he lives in New York City. And so when he got to the set, it was like every take was amazing prior, because we worked for a month and a half on it. So that helped a lot. In regards to improvisations, I think there was one scene that we improvised, but everything else was really from the script, you know. And also another layer that I wanted to add, which I hope that people saw, is that La Soga means the rope. And if you see at the end, when his wife or his girlfriend is being tortured, the rope was stretching and stretching, stretching more, and snaps, which to me it all reflects to is a metaphor of his life, how he has been so played with his entire life that he had a snap to become the monster that he's been trying to hide from this entire time.
Yeah.
So that's another layer that I added, which I think, you know, which I think people can pick that up and say, oh, I know, I get it. That's why he was showing the rope so much, you know. Plus also the rope, he's been tied at the end with the rope. He tied the gringo guy with a rope, Chris McGarry, which is an amazing actor, the guy who plays Jimmy Mack. Mm-hmm. So the rope is like throughout the film a metaphor of himself, of his life.
And there's another piece that you talk about is like, you know, fatherhood, you know, either losing a parent or losing the possibility of starting a family, like that, you know, how all these pieces prevented families from flourishing. Was that something that you know, put in there purposefully?
Yeah, I did, actually. It's funny. Thank you for picking up on that. That continues on part. The saga continues, and that's where I'll continue with the whole element of father son, because he in life, I mean, this man, you know, he's looking for a child. That's his main thing. He wants a family, and something that he never had because of, again, his prior past. So in part 3, it continues the journey with the family, which I think is interesting. But I don't want to call it part 3 because people will be like, hey, there's a part 3 coming. No, it's just it continues.
So the story will continue. I'm excited to continue. Yeah, seeing your work. I'm so happy that we get to have the world premiere of your film here at TIFF. And I look forward, like it's in 3 weeks. I look forward to seeing you here in Toronto very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. It's really and thank you again for your I mean, you've been a blessing. I will say it 100 more times. Thank you so much.
Gracias. No, it's been super. Yeah, very, very happy to be able to show your film and to like reconnect since you were last year in 2009.
Exactly. No, well, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure.